Welcome to SpeedWeek. I'm Bob Jenkins.
And I'm Larry Newber. One of the year's biggest racing weekends is over, and in the next 30 minutes we'll bring you up to date on what happened at the major events. We begin in Indianapolis.
And Larry, for the second year in a row, the Roger Penske team put a winner in victory lane at the 69th running of the 500-mile race. The start was rather slow, but safe. Bobby Rahal from outside row number 1 beat the Buicks to the first turn and continued to lead early laps. Full center Pancho Carter lasted only 6 circuits and becomes only the second driver in history to start first and finish last. Buick teammate Scott Brayton doesn't fare much better. His race ends on lap 19. Pre-race favorites were Rahal and Mario Andretti in view of Andretti's kart championship last year and his win at Long Beach earlier this year. But the Indy jinx will continue to follow Mario this day. A.J. Foyt's hopes for a 5th victory ended with a bent front wing, then a small fire in the pits. 1983 winner Tom Sneva in the Dan Gurney Eagle dashed to the front from a 13th place start and raced a while with Al Unser Jr. until Little Al's day ends in the pits. Bad mechanical luck also plagues Rahal. He's credited with a 27th place finish. 3-time 1984 kart winner Danny Sullivan charges steadily toward the front to race with Mario. In turn 1, Danny is low to pass.
Well, I just tried to go past Mario and actually passed him going down into turn 1, but he leaned on me pretty hard down there, and I had to go down on the apron to, to get through the corner so we weren't touching wheels, and I just pinched it a little bit too tight, and it turned around on me coming out of 1, and I just spun it, and then I saw a little bit of daylight pointing toward turn 2, and I took my foot off the brakes, selected another gear, and took off.
Shortly after the green comes on from that spin, in the same corner, Rich Fogler and Howdy Holmes touch wheels. Rich is hard into the wall. Tom Sneva spins and also hits the fence. Rich is flown by helicopter to Methodist Hospital but isn't serious. Back to green, and Sullivan tries Mario again. This time passes cleanly. But there's trouble for John Paul Jr. He slams the second turn wall, scattering debris everywhere, but is uninjured. Then with less than 10 laps to go, Bill Whittington crashes in turn 3. But the track crew cleans up quickly, allowing the race to end under green. Danny Sullivan beats Andretti by 1.5 seconds.
I enjoy winning, but I enjoy winning, fighting hard, and beating guys like Mario and that, because it could have turned around the other way, and it was a great race. And we had to fight the whole afternoon, especially after the spin.
The top 10 finishers in this year's 500, Danny Sullivan, Mario Andretti, Roberto Guerrero, Al Unser Sr., and Johnny Parsons. The second 5, Johnny Rutherford, Ari Lyondike, Michael Andretti, Ed Pym, and Howdy Holmes. Sullivan's share of the record $3.26 million purse was $507,662. He moves into the top 10 in career speedway earnings in just 3 races. George Snyder collected the least amount of money for his 32nd place finish, $53,262. Ari Lyondike was named Rookie of the Year.
Indianapolis, also the city of the second SCCA Super V race of the year. The first, of course, held on the streets of Long Beach, but this was a near 5/8 mile circle for the Vs. Mario's youngest son, Jeff, on the pole. New track record, but soon lost the lead in crowded quarters to Alabama's Ken Johnson. But less than 1 lap later, havoc up front. Johnson spins. Andretti just gets nipped. Californian David Kudrave also darts low. And the Long Beach winner, Davy Jones, scrapes high along the wall. And he's out. Ted Trappist zips into the lead. Another Californian, Mike Cooper, finds himself in second. Steve Thompson and Ken Murray met up in 1, and then Trappist is gone, and Hooper now has the lead. But watch Mike Groff, high in the black 14, also snookers Hooper in a crowd. But somehow Hooper, in the Derek Daly lookalike, pulled out career victory number 1.
In France last weekend, Christian Danner collected his first Formula 3000 win of the year. Points leader Emmanuel Pirro of Italy was second. Italian Lamberto Leoni was third in a Williams. Oliver Groulard of France was 4th in a March, and Philippe Streif of France was 5th in an AGS.
Next on Speed Week, Darrell is a gas in the 600-miler.
And a blast at the end of the Winston. Stay with us. NASCAR says it will go ahead with a rule change that reduces the size of the restrictor plate between the carburetor and manifold. The change could slow cars by 5 to 6 miles an hour and will go into effect for the Firecracker 400 the 4th of July. Harry Melling, the owner of Bill Elliott's car, says he'll sue NASCAR if the change is implemented before the Southern 500. Elliott will earn a $1 million bonus if he wins that race.
The Charlotte Motor Speedway may be the finest racing facility in America, combining effective publicity and hospitality with the magnitude of their events. Two major races, and everybody trying to beat this man, Bill Elliott. He had a chance to pocket that $1 million if he won Sunday's World 600. That's the third in Stock Car's 4 crown jewels. The usual start, Bill, pole, and leading, but this would be a historic and a financially rewarding weekend for a former champ who hadn't won yet this year. A tough one to prepare for, 600 miles, and some top competitors out early. Benny Parsons, an increasingly frustrated Cale Yarborough, and Buddy Baker. Traffic heavy again today for most of the race as seen from Lake Speed's viewpoint. Lap 200 halfway paid a $10,000 bonus. Dale Earnhardt in the Blue 3 and Darrell Waltrip used the entire track, 2 fenders, and the grass to decide it in Dale's favor. Ron Bouchard, patrol leading here, had a good but incomplete day, as did Morgan Shepherd, Tim Richmond, and Jeff Bodine. This was not to be another Bill Elliott win. The effort here requiring everybody south of Michigan to drag the car to a stop because of no brakes typified his day. The last pit stop, fuel mileage, would determine the winner. Harry Gant away first, but fuel consumption is right on the edge. Darrell catches Harry, but he's drafting, not passing. Junior Johnson sat quietly under the umbrella all day, but with less than 10 laps to go, he's on the pit wall concentrating hard. Suddenly, leader Gant darts in. It's short, but too long. Other leaders, Labonte and Earnhardt, have to stop too, but what about Waltrip? Now he's found Bobby Allison, and he's saving even more fuel, coasting along in his win. At the stripe, he's still feeding off Bobby, and amazingly, he ran out of fuel in turn 1. Elliott will pursue that million on ESPN in Darlington at the Southern 500 Labor Day weekend.
Saturday's preliminary at Charlotte was the richest race in NASCAR history, the Winston, a 70-lap shootout involving last year's 12 Grand National winners. In terms of close racing, it left a little to be desired, but nevertheless had its moments. Darrell Waltrip, last year's most frequent winner and 1984 Winston Cup champ Terry Labonte, fell into a 1-2 single-file start with Harry Gant, Jeff Bodine, Dale Earnhardt, and Cale Yarborough following. Although the race required 1 pit stop, Bodine's came much too early. This dropped him to a last-place finish. There were 2 bonus laps that paid $10,000 each. The first, lap 20, saw Labonte nip Darrell by a fender. The second, lap 55, was no contest for Harry Gant. Bill Elliott, who had such big hopes and big money possibilities, had transmission problems and had to hold the car in gear with one hand and drive with the other. Tim Richmond and Bobby Allison raced for a while for 5th spot, and Rudd passed Elliott for 7th at one point, but Bill retook the position later. Gant leads until coming down for the white flag lap. Darrell passes and wins, but just after crossing the stripe, the engine lets go. But it's the biggest weekend payoff in NASCAR history. Combined with his World 600 victory, Darrell's total winnings are in excess of $270,000. The official order of finish: Waltrip, Gant, Labonte, Yarborough, Richmond, and Allison. The second 6, Elliott, Rudd, Parsons, Earnhardt, Petty, and Bodine.
Also, one of the biggest sportsman races of the year. Tim Richmond, sub for Jeff Bodine, sat on the pole and dominated. Bosco Lowe slid through the grass and then back onto the track directly in front of Robert Ingram Jr. The resulting inferno consumed his machine, but Bosco had already escaped. Another bender involved sprint cars, Sammy Swindell in red, and Charlie Luck. Some excellent racing here. Tim, L.D. Ottinger, Bonnet, and Brent Bodine trophy dash into one, but at the end, Richmond waved goodbye to all of them.
Heroics at the IMSA race Monday at Lime Rock, Connecticut. We get the story from Jim Roller.
Mother Nature provided the dramatics, and Drake Olson provided the heroics Monday in the 2-hour Camel GT sports car race at Lime Rock Park, Connecticut. Olson took the lead from the number 04 Jaguar of Hurley Haywood and Brian Redmond with less than 20 minutes to go in the 2-hour grind. Then this off-course excursion started a bizarre chain of events as Olson's Porsche clipped the Jaguar as it retook the lead. Then Mother Nature unleashed a downpour on the 1.5-mile Lime Rock road course and the record 45,000 spectators. A surprised Olson retook the top spot when Redmond brought the leading Jaguar to the pits with a windshield covered with oil and no visibility. Over the final 10 minutes, the 30-year-old Olson held the lead in treacherous conditions, winning by just under a minute. This was the first major race win for Olson and the first victory for the new team owned by Rob Dyson. Olson took home over $18,000, including the Norelco Drivers' Cup for the race's best individual performance. The Camel Light victory for smaller prototypes went to Peter and Mike Greenfield of nearby Manhasset, New York. Darren Brassfield won a separate race for production-based GT cars. Brassfield's Ford Thunderbird dominated the big bore class, while second-place finisher Chris Cord won the smaller engine class with his Toyota Celica. Amos Johnson took a wire-to-wire win in the Champion Spark Plug Challenge for front-wheel drive sedans. The North Carolina native led a Mazda sweep of the event. And Craig Carter took his first win of the year in the Kelly American Challenge, a series the Marion, Ohio native has dominated in the past. The Camel GT Circus moves next to Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in Lexington, Ohio, June 9th. Reporting from Lime Rock, Connecticut, this is Jim Roller.
The toughest place for the traveling World of Outlaw sprints to win is South Central Pennsylvania. Just watch. Steve Kinzer won at Lernerville last Wednesday, then on to Williams Grove Friday. Sammy Swindell gets this turn 2 jump before the start, but he was lucky to even get in, missing qualifying because of late model sportsman duties in North Carolina. The red Hamilton 77. Keith Kaufman demonstrated early that this Eastern Kingpin, like Mitch Smith years before him, rules his home speedway. Kinzer labors in fourth. Doug Wolfgang in the home track Weichert car turned back Brad Doty, a Traveler, for second. Then actually got past Kaufman for first once. Well, kinda, before Keith motored away and won. Lincoln Speedway was a bit more vintage outlaw. Easterner Richard Lupo led a few laps, and then that blonde kid from Indiana, Kinzer, took over. Hometowner Bobby Allen gets second tonight, but went on to win at Hagerstown the next day. 4 races, 3 winners.
They've been racing midgets in Indianapolis the night before the 500 since 1945. Nowadays, it's held at Indianapolis Raceway Park. Preliminaries to the feature saw Jim Hurtaby's son Andy light up the night sky in his Renault-powered midget. Bruce Field, Mike Craig, and John Andretti battled for the feature lead until this flip by Chuck West. Nick Bonoro Jr. in the car that Pancho Carter began his midget career in passed Field on lap 29 and won the race. Mel Kenyon finished third.
2 other USAC midget events over the weekend. For the first time since 1981, they competed at the historic half mile at Winchester, Indiana. Bruce Field recorded the win, his first ever in USAC.
And several hundred miles away in Manera, California, they were honoring one of the 1950s greatest. Prior to the start of the Bill Vukovich Memorial, grandson Billy III took a few laps in a midget just like Grandpa used to drive. The main event today, a 50-lapper. Sleepy Trip in number 67 takes over the lead on the 29th lap and is never headed. Western States points leader Rusty Rasmussen in number 38 is second, and Rick Gerhardt from the famous racing family winds up third.
Sheldon Kinzer victored the Home 100 Championship dirt car race at the Indiana State Fairgrounds. Kelly Kinzer won 2 in all-star sprint competition, both in Indiana. And Jeff Swindell won the Monday race in Pennsylvania.
CART has established a set of chassis rules governing the next 4 years. The rules will be announced later in a joint statement with USAC and the Indianapolis Speedway. It's hoped the new rules will reduce speeds by up to 10 miles an hour. The CART B-Series race scheduled for Milwaukee this weekend has been canceled due to lack of entries. Look for Gordon Johncock to come out of retirement later this year to compete possibly in the Showroom Stock Series. And 25 cars are entered in this weekend's first Can-Am race of the year at Mossport in Canada.
In our next segment, Big Daddy does it again.
And Bubba shows him at Springfield. Stay with us. Weekend, the NHRA dragsters also saw action. The 7-Eleven Cajun Nationals were held at Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and the Pro Stock Finals pitted Bob Glidden far lane against Warren Johnson. Johnson's Olds Calais ekes out a close win, his second in NHRA this year. Pro Funny Cars Jim Head far lane against Kenny Bernstein. It's an easy win for Head, quite evident that Kenny had hurt his motor in the semifinal round. Don Garlitz won his second meet of this year in the Top Fuel division against Bill Mullins. It's Garlitz's 4th win in 6 tries since coming out of retirement. He's now only 84 points behind Top Fuel points leader Joe Amato. 45-year-old Mickey Tadlock from Austin, Texas died Monday afternoon from head injury suffered in a Pro Stock Division qualifying round accident.
Lead changes in AMA Grand National competition have become like the family photo album. Oh, they're all the same people, but an endless number of different poses. Take the Stroh Springfield Mile. Last Sunday, for instance, here's champ Ricky Graham returning and beating everybody into the first turn. Here's his teammate, Bubba Schobert, the man to beat, and then 95 Scott Pearson and 11 Scott Parker showing us how bikes draft. Next, the men show us that bikes really can go 3 abreast through a corner on a mile. There's Graham leading down the backstretch this time, and you can see that Ronnie Jones on 16 wants his picture taken. Then Scott Parker demonstrates how to enter a turn third and emerge first, and number 4, rookie Chris Carr, has shown us how to catch up. Here they are trying the Indy start into turn 1 again. And in this last shot, you can't tell it, but it's Bubba Schobert winning again.
The Playboy SCCA Showroom Stock Series moved to Road Atlanta last weekend, and it was another sweep for the Morrison Cook team. The number 98 Corvette with Don Knowles and Bobby Carradine led most of the race, but in the 11th hour, the number 97 Vet with Jim Cook and Ron Grable, shown here with the third place finishing Trally Sanchez Vet, held on for the victory. It was the team's second out of 3 races and means that Goodyear does not pay out a $50,000 bonus. The Morrison Cook Vets run on Goodrich tires.
At the other end of the design spectrum, the exotic super modified stock cars. Of course, there's not one radius rod of stock about them anymore. That yellow car ramming into the lead, owned by Jack Tobin. He's fielded cars at Oswego for 12 years, but never won. Gary Albritton won the International Classic back in '75 when he was a bright Indy prospect, his driver this year. Pugilistic Joe Gosick, black 00, moves in. And here comes track champ Bentley Warren in the white Flying 5. And now Eddie Bellinger, but he's knocked out by the inside rail in freeway traffic. A little later, Gosick looks like he'll finally get Albritton, but this subtle move, maybe 1.5 feet at 150 miles per hour, keeps him on top, and probably was the winning move. Warren moved up and made it a side-by-side finish, but this was Gary's day. Here's this week's trivia question. We told you earlier that Pancho Carter was the second in history, but who was the first driver to start from the pole and finish last in an Indy 500? A, Cliff Woodbury, B, Don Branson, C, Mike Mosley, D, Mario Andretti, or E, Paul Russo? Bob will have the answer in a moment.
The answer to this week's trivia question: Branson, Mosley, and Russo have all started second and finished last. Mario started fourth and finished last in 1968, but in 1929, A, Cliff Woodbury started first and finished last.
Lots of megaton races this week, but for some, perhaps the most exhilarating start was in Anderson, Indiana. The annual Little 500, 33 sprint cars, 11 rows of 3 on a quarter-mile high-bank paved racetrack for 500 laps. Tampa's Frank Riddle, who was born between the 2 world wars, set 1- and 4-lap records in the beautiful Harry Campbell Sprint. Another ancient one, Bill Roynan, a Lilac 68, led, but this yellow flag flat really hurt. Often a treacherous race, but only minor shunts today. Florida's Ronnie Smith, hometowner Gary Schlafer, no injuries. Ohio's Bob Fry in a V6, one of the swiftest cars this year. Russian roulette congestion during this race is part of the tradition. This year, no exception. Fry made up a lost lap late in the contest, but it wasn't enough. This is win number 2 in a row for Riddle. Fry finishes second, a straightaway behind.
A big auto racing doubleheader this Sunday on ESPN. At 8:30 a.m., Jackie Stewart and John Bizignano will have live coverage of the Formula One race from Spa, Belgium.
Then at 3 Eastern Time, the American 200 in honor of Rex May's IndyCar race from Milwaukee.
Reports on those races and others next week on SpeedWeek. I'm Bob Jenkins.
And I'm Larry Newber. We leave you with more of the World 600 weekend at Charlotte.
SpeedWeek has been brought to you by B.F. Goodrich, makers of high-performance TA radials. We make cars perform. And by the STP Corporation. On the world's racetracks, on the world's roads. Depend on STP, your car care company.